How do I get it?
Okay. We are super excited. Secret Code of Success. We got Jerry and Deanna, troopers here on the call, which means more time for us to share our thoughts. Any first thoughts initially? Who's read ahead? Gary, have you read ahead?
I don't know where I've stopped because I'm listening to the audiobook.
Okay. All right. Did you see the questions I put in Gold Digger so that you guys could print them out and answer the questions? Okay. Do that tomorrow because I did it specifically. I did it specifically because I know a lot of people are listening on Audible, which means when he rolls out the questions, you're just kind of listening and then you move on, right? And so I actually went through and typed out all of the questions from all the different things he tells us to do. Because something he talks about repeatedly is this is a book of action. So it's one thing to just kind of read it and go, that sounds good. It's something else to completely like take the steps and do them. And I didn't realize how important it was until honestly, I am one chapter ahead of us. And the questions, like look at all these, my pages of answering the questions, and they're good. They're like, where I was like, oh, I got to go back and make sure everybody is doing these questions because I didn't really. I was just reading along, right, and jotting little notes in my book. But when in the next chapter, when I started writing out my answers and really thinking about it, I could feel a big difference. I could feel a shift. If that makes sense? Like, instead of casually thinking about them, there was like a significant shift in how my brain was thinking when I wrote them out. So that's when I was like, I got to write these out because there's so many people on Audible. But have you done affirmations and like what to say when you talk to yourself and all that stuff before, Jerry?
Yes.
Okay, so you're not new to it.
Affirmations I started to write down.
Yeah. So I don't think many of us on our team are new to affirmations, but affirmations obviously are totally a new deal. So the whole concept of why they work or how. So he starts with the disempowering questions that we hear in our head. So I'll share some of mine. If you guys want to share some of yours, you can. These won't be new to some people or surprising, but he wants you to write down 5 disempowering questions you hear in your head. I literally hear so many times a day, why haven't you hit Emerald yet? It's in my head all the time of like, why is this taking me so freaking long? Why haven't I done this yet? Why can't I save money? Why do I love to shop? These are real. You can ask Deanna, like we've had long, hard talks about all 3 of those things. Like they just kind of consume me. Why am I afraid to reach out to people? And why aren't I eating healthier? So,
Sorry. I'm just laughing at the conversation before you're recording.
Correct. No, I mean this is the real. Whatever Christy Barkley shows up in selfies with her hair made, like this book is, you're getting the real like behind the scenes look that typically only Deanna and Jenny and my husband get. Jenny, Deanna, what are some of do you have any disempowering questions? I don't feel like you do.
Of course not. Of course I do. Can you hear me? I changed to my computer. Absolutely. I actually was just thinking about that this morning. I didn't have any of them written down in my book because I have been listening to it on Audible as well. But when I listened to this, when I was listening and going through this part, I could feel, even just as he was reading it and, saying, why don't I have enough money? How come I'm so lonely? Why am I such a loser? All of these things. I mean, it was kind of like this. I could just feel the heavy. I don't think those things particularly, but the things like, why have I not ranked up? Why have I not done my action stack today? Why have I, and fill in the blank, what are things that I haven't done to be productive in my day? even though I know there are a lot of things that I have done. But it's just beating yourself up. And I think everyone deals with that. Everyone has disempowering questions that they allow in their head to get in their head. And it's damaging. And it's just a little bit at a time. And it knocks you down a notch.
And I think it makes sense with those, why even though we say all the affirmations, you say them, and then in the back of your mind, you're like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You know, I'm driving a Buick Enclave and the air conditioner doesn't work. But in my affirmations, I'm saying, I drive a Plexus Lexus. And Andrew's behind me going, no, you don't. You know when I'm saying them out loud.
Yeah.
So, like that's his first step, is like taking those things, the disempowering ones, and switching them. And so that's where I started. You know, like I said in how I ended it last time, like the way he says these questions are pretty super simple. But as we move through them, I'm excited to share some of the things that Sonia Dudley taught just to make them better. But the whole purpose of them, he says, is to change your disempowering questions to empowering questions. So we don't need, the next chapter is so much bigger than this one. I think the main thing to take away in the affirmations is, I love when he said on page 68, the quality of your life depends on just two things: the quality of your communication with the world inside yourself, and the quality of your communication with the world outside yourself. That's super deep, you know, because it's really true. Because I feel like a lot of times maybe the image that I project, like Deanna makes fun of me because I always want to be fancy. You know, I'm fancy. And it's so funny to her because she has known me since I was 18. And the ironic thing about me being fancy is I've always been the poorest. Like I have the right to be the least fancy of anybody. You know, not today, but in my previous 42 years of our friend circle, I'm the least wealthy. But my thing, I think because I grew up so poor, like to the point of not knowing if there's going to be milk in the fridge, I've just always kind of created this image of what the outside world saw of me. But then there was the inside that I was always battling. And that inside is where the shopping comes from. Like if there is a little bit of money, I am shopping. And it's not good, but it's that like life depends. Like if I'm trying to portray this certain image, I have to shop when I can to buy these things. And it's not a good thing. I got to get over it. Like I tell people and they just laugh at me, but I'm like, the way I need to be is Deanna could buy, if Deanna wanted something, she could go buy it and it wouldn't be a problem. But Deanna could care less what anybody, her fancy thing are her lashes.
I do have fancy eyelashes.
That's her thing. Like anything else, like a girl on our team today messaged me about what to wear and blah, blah, blah. And I explained how you're going to see everything at convention from what in the world is wrong with you to, wow, that's amazing. You know, and I've said, I tend to err on the side of fancy. I like dressing up. I like doing things. I said, Deanna has a Deanna uniform. It is jeans and a blousey.
Like this is out of the
blouse shirt. Like she doesn't normally wear a t-shirt. She wears a blouse and jeans and like flats or sandals. That's the Deanna uniform. She doesn't care to impress anybody. And the thing is, she totally could. She could go buy a convention wardrobe that like rivals Natalie Kanabe, and you'd be like, and it wouldn't be an issue. But that's not.
Because my blouse that I have, I actually bought a few of the blouses, and I think they're 3 years old. Like the things that my favorites,
yeah.
And so I have a hard time if I already have something that is okay, then I'm still okay. Yeah, shopping's not really my thing.
And I want all the new things.
Save your money. Why do you save all your money, Christy?
It's on my list. It's on my list.
There you go, right, Jerry? See, Jerry's shaking her head. Why do I save all my money? Why do
Why
I
do I save all my
have
money?
so much savings?
So, really, he just talks about how our brain is designed to answer questions and to act on questions. When people ask us questions, we naturally try to find the answer to it. So that's kind of what we're doing. So what I think would be awesome is if you were willing to share some of your affirmations and then be open to like tweaking them to add more emotion so that it touches you more. Yeah, Jerry?
I need better wording on my first one. So this first affirmation, I had to dig deep on how I got this way. I don't know. So my first one is, why do I not bother people? So that comes from my childhood when my alcoholic, abusive father, I would tippy-toe around, try not to bother him. And that's just how I've always been. So when I talk to anybody, I don't want to bother them, so I just need to get over that. So,
Okay. So my first suggestion would be to take out bother because it's a negative word, right? So I have something that I think is what you want to achieve. Maybe not exactly. You use your words, but where did hold on. Give me a second.
I like to think of what are you trying to, what's your goal? Your goal is that you want to be, or what are you wanting to be? You're wanting to be, are you wanting to be helpful to someone? Are you wanting to be enjoyed by someone or friends with?
I want to not care about, if they're, I don't know.
What their reaction is going to be to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what mine says. Why do I talk to so many people, ask them questions, listen well, and share about Plexus when it can help them? Because really it's about connecting with them, right? Because you don't want to, if you feel like you're just trying to sell somebody something, you're going to have that bother because you're worried about their reaction to you. Because you don't want to be like that person who stands in the mall that wants to rub the hand cream on you, where you're like, you won't look at them because they're chasing you down. Ma'am. But when really, if your goal is more about serving others and you know that you can serve them by helping them feel better, by sharing Plexus, like how do you get to that point? You talk to them, you ask them lots of questions, and then you say, I don't know if you'd be interested in this, but I've seen this help a lot. So first, just try to remove bother from your vocabulary, which will be tough because you were raised with it, right? But like Deanna said, like what is your, like what is your big goal, Jerry?
With this affirmation or with life?
No, with life. What are like a couple big goals of yours?
I have my dream board back there. There's also stuff on there. Debt free. I don't know. Comfortable living.
So what does comfortable living mean?
Debt free. Not afraid to spend money, I guess. I don't know.
What would, if you were debt free, what would that feel like in your house?
I guess it would be a weight lifted off your shoulders.
So when you have a bit of debt, does it sometimes like cause you to maybe lose sleep or be stressed during the day because you know certain bills are coming up? Ever?
A little bit. Vital Biome really helps.
It helps a lot. So to be debt free, if you didn't have X amount of dollars going out on debt, what would you do with that amount of money?
I would try to save it.
And then once you saved X amount, what would you be saving for?
I guess kids' futures. I don't really know. Oh, college and stuff like that.
So that's what you want to think about. So if you're able to pay for your kids to go to college, wherever they get into, the best school they get into, then what does that mean for them?
A better future.
For not just them, but for generations of them. Like if your kids could graduate without college debt, I mean, I'm still paying my student loans and now I'm taking them out for Isaac's school. Like, you know, but so that's the thing, is kind of being able to take your goals and attach emotion to them. So not just, why am I debt free? It can be, how amazing is it that I'm able to pay for my kids to go to college wherever they get in because I am totally debt free? Feel the difference between just kind of what that feels like? Like there's some emotion behind it, and that may not be what it is. You've got to figure out like what goes with it, whether it's an event or a feeling, or like if you remember a certain time, let's say you want to be a certain weight or size, and you have that weight in your mind because in the past you were that weight and you remember what it felt like when you looked in the mirror and certain clothes fit a certain way and whatnot. So your thing would not be, I want to weigh 100, why do I weigh 150 pounds? It would be, why do I look amazing in these jeans that I haven't been able to wear since 1990, and look amazing. Obviously you get new jeans, but just adding things to it. So, like one of mine is Emerald. So my affirmation is, what does it feel like to rank up to Emerald on or before July 31st, pick up my Lexus and plan my outfits for Hawaii? Because those are things that are important to me. After that, though, I do have, why do I save more and more money each month? And I have, why do I save more than I spend? So I probably need to add to that. But before this call started, because I started them and I added some to it, and then a few of them I've just been adding more and more better stuff to it. So how wonderful is it that I look so hot in a bikini at the pool in Hawaii with the other Emeralds? So it's not just, why do I look good in a swimsuit? Yes, Deanna?
I was just going to say, for Jerry, back on her, changing that wording instead of saying why do I bother people, or I don't bother people, why do I not bother? Like Christy said, take the bother out and replace it with why are people attracted to me? Why am I so kind? Why do I, or why? It was just that it's on page 67. You might not have the book yet, right, Jerry? But it is the reverse the curse part on his. But when someone says, why am I so lonely? Because they're asking themselves, why am I so lonely? They are forming that loneliness. And so get rid of the bothersome.
Yeah.
Why am I such a great helper? Why are people attracted to me? Because I, think of the opposite of that, of being bothersome, at least what it means to you.
What the word would be. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And
I didn't think about taking the word out. That's a good idea.
Yeah, take it out because you're not bothersome.
Yeah. So one of mine is, how do I inspire so many people every day to become their best and happiest, healthiest self? So again, it goes back to like, what really are we trying to do? What are some of your others, Jerry? Are there any others that you're stuck with?
Why am I patient with my kids?
And don't you find yourself answering that? Because I love them, and because I'm teaching them to be kind and patient with others. And I mean, in your mind, that's what, at least for me, I start answering that. When you ask that
because you're setting a good example of how you want them to be with others. When you're patient with them, you're setting that
Notice
example.
that with the affirmations, when you say or think them, you automatically want to answer, rather than with like affirmations, you're just saying it. You're not trying to answer it.
And sometimes scoffing at your own self, right? Hi, Janelle.
Yeah. So I love them. Any other things on affirmations before we move to the next chapter? All right. So the next chapter has lots of, if you look at the post, chapter 5 in Gold Diggers, there's so many questions to answer. My guess is nobody's done that homework yet. I've done the questions, but I haven't done the main homework. But I was a little confused on loving mirrors and safe havens, but then I figured it out with the help of Sonia Dudley. Loving mirrors really is, it's the people that surround you, that reflect you, that have the opportunity either, if they're loving mirrors, they are lifting you up with kind words, with support, with really telling you how great you are. Because I really like what he says, like, you are the least capable person to know what you're truly capable of. Because you know, he says, aren't we sometimes our own worst enemy? Well, if what you want is love, support, and encouragement, is it really smart to go to your worst enemy? You know, there are people in my life that if I wanted to be boosted up, I would not be going to them for help. Like, I would be steering totally clear. And so he just talks about that being a negative reflection, and what you really need are the positive reflections. But I love on page 79, he gives these stages, the evolution of success. The first stage is someone believes in you. The second stage is you believe in someone else. And the final stage is you believe in you. Like, how awesome is that? Because truly, you know, don't you feel like, for me, I know for sure, I have some really amazing friends. So something's going on with me, or something's stressing me out, or whatever. Deanna and Jenny truly will just Marco Polo me and tell me all of these great things about myself. Or if I'm having to handle something tough on our team, that's really, Deanna knows, like, this is not, it's not that it's not easy for me to handle, because I am one that faces conflict head on. The conflict for me is I'm awfully much too critical and harsh. So the hard part for me is handling issues with a little bit of kindness, or a lot of kindness. That has been my probably biggest personal development since I've started network marketing. So what Deanna will do when I'm about to have to handle something, or I have handled something, she will immediately message me and say, you did so good. You know, your words were kind, you were supportive, you were this, you were that, you know, and by the way, you look so lovely. Lovely is Deanna's word. You know, I look like garbage. I'm laying on my back on the couch because the day has exhausted me and I can't even lift my head up to do the video message. And she's like, but you look so lovely. And you know, she does that. You know what I'm able to do after that? Finish what I need to do with a kind and loving heart. So that's what loving mirrors are. They are the people that are around you that super make you feel fantastic. And you need those, because when people fill you up, then you are a mirror to somebody else and you reflect greatness into somebody else. And then before you know it, you're good. You know, and I think we always all need it. Everybody needs encouragement. Everybody needs that support. But for a lot of people, they just, when they look in the mirror, they don't see great things. And so that's the point of a loving mirror. Like see what they see in you, because you can't see them yet. Right? Yeah.
And, you know, I have been very fortunate. He talks about this too, that, you know, there are a lot of people that did not grow up with that unconditional support. And I am very fortunate because I have that and continue to have that. And I'm really, really lucky. But I notice that and I know I can identify when he talks about that, when, you know, when you don't feel that great about yourself, you're, like you said, and he says, we are our worst critics. And you can look in the mirror and I see the broccoli that's in my teeth, or I see my crooked nose or my teeth gap or all of those things. I look at a picture, and what do you look at? When you see a picture of yourself, is the first thing you look at is like, wow, I look good. I mean, usually it is, you pick out the hair that's out here, or you pick out the eyelash that fell down, or, whatever it is. And no one else is looking at that. What they see is your happy smile. They see your glowy, they think it's fantastic. And so having people around you that mirror and will show you, look, you are wonderful. That makes such a huge difference. And like Christy said, being that and finding that people to surround yourself with, and also putting that out there for others and taking that step to share the love with people makes a big difference, because you will get that back.
And he puts it in such a tangible form with his example about the eyes. Like, if you didn't have a mirror to look in, you would truly have to depend on the people around you to know what color your eyes are. No matter how well you know yourself, without a reflection to look in, you depend on others to tell you. So if you're surrounded by, like Jerry, just a little you mentioned about your dad, and I grew up in really bad circumstances. So my mirror for years was the people around me did not think I was very cool. We'll just put it like that. And they're my parents, the people who are supposed to think you're the coolest. So that takes a long time to overcome. And it takes really great people that truly think you're fantastic and are willing to share it with you. But knowing is half the battle, like really recognizing and knowing. And we'll get to that. So safe haven.
Wait, could I say something here?
Yes.
Sorry, I jumped on. I'm driving down to Utah, so I'm on the phone.
You're good.
But so this book is amazing. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. But these particular chapters, I thought it would. And it really hit me when he talked about the authentic self, that still small voice. And maybe you guys already talked about this, so I'm sorry if I'm kind of repeating. But I have worked with a very small team essentially the last 10 years. And if you know anything about family theories, there's a family theory called the systems theory, and it's this idea that in every family there's a role. There's a scapegoat, there's an overachiever, there's Stop, please. They do it at work too, and my role has actually been scapegoat. And I have been struggling with it, and I finally kind of confronted it, and I was like, oh man, but this book actually has helped me see how much the role that I've played at work has impacted how I saw myself. Because I've done the exercises, I journaled all the way through it, because it's just so priceless, the stuff I'm finding out. But what really when he talked about what small voice says, and loving mirror, because I told my husband about because he says tell somebody about what you feel and how you see yourself, because they're the ones that are going to say to you, wow, it never even occurred to me to look at you that way, because that's not who you are. And so my husband and I sat down, and I told him, I just said, I didn't realize that from these experiences, this is kind of what I've developed, and I didn't know how much it was holding me back from social experiences, from relationships, because I kind of built this wall of hey, I'm hard to work with kind of idea. And then I was like, where did that come from? And I started to trace it. But anyway, so a couple of my good friends I've sat down with, and we've talked about this, and it has been so good, because this frame developed myself, I'm now seeing was not correct. And that the people who are closest to me have been able to say, that's not you at all, Janelle.
Yeah. So it's so important because that's what one of these exercises is to take this set of questions and send them to the people whose opinion you actually value and have them, you know, answer these questions about you. So I love that it helped you. And while you were saying that, I recalled, so, you know, I also do this book club that, and Sonia Dudley is leading it, and there's a girl on it that gave the perfect example. I had never thought about it this way, but she said that, so she's a kindergarten teacher, has been for 20 years, has a master's degree. She said, I truly think that I'm one of the 3%ers in education. I'm fantastic at it. I love it. I'm this, I'm that. She said, but I think, she said, after reading like these chapters, she realized she had put herself in 2 different categories. So she was a 3%er as a teacher, but she saw herself as like bottom of the barrel in network marketing. She was like, I don't know how to do it. I'm not succeeding. I'm not successful. I'm not doing all these things. And I thought, how interesting that you can think. I just kind of think like, if you're good with everything that's going on, like you're just good, right? You're just confident and you're, you know, and you think you can do all the things. And then when she said that, I was like, oh, you know, I bet that's, and so Sonia said, you know, yeah, but you've been a teacher for 20 years. You've been in network marketing for 3. Like, were you in the top 3% of teachers by your 3rd year? She was like, not even close. And she goes, okay. She goes, Sonia said, people tell me all the time how amazing I am, and they love my trainings, and they pay for my trainings. Everything's great. She goes, I've been in network marketing for 29 years. Like, if I'm not great at it by now, I should not be in it. You know, and I was like, how many of us are like me? Like, I'm so bugged that I'm not an Emerald. I'm like, it's been 3 years, really? You know, most companies, it takes you like 20 years to get to 100 grand. So perspective, safe mirrors, and then safe havens is like your mirror at work, which is will be super important. Obviously for Janelle, she's working through this already, but for me, these are the people that you tell your goals to, your work goals to, and what you want to accomplish. And then they get to hold you accountable. And sometimes they're a pain in the butt. So we sold our Buick, and now my husband and I share a car. You think he doesn't remind me every single day, doesn't ask me, when are you going to get a Lexus? Like, every day he says, how much stuff on your action stack did you get done? Did you close any deals today? And it's like, can I just tell you I did 5 loads of laundry? You know, it's not like, we did a budget when we moved to Fort Lauderdale, and it is, I have to be at Emerald for us to be comfortable here. So every day, and he wouldn't do that. Like, if my goal was never to be at Emerald, if our goal was to move here and me to be like, you know, I'm going to make a few $1,000s a month and that's it, we're going to have to figure it out, that would be it. But he knows what I want. My affirmations are pasted on the bathroom. I've always had dream boards everywhere. Like, he knows. And so it's okay for him to say, hey, just like with Deanna, when I look at her points and I can call and say, you could push. Let's push, you know, and we figure out a plan and we do it. Whereas, would it be easier to not push? For sure, you know, but I know what she wants. I know she has a desire to do certain things on certain months. And so I push her in a loving manner. So they're kind of, but I think your safe haven needs to also be a loving mirror, or else there'll probably be a lot of resentment.
I loved it when he said, I've never met a millionaire who's ever said they've gotten there alone. They've always said that I couldn't have done it without so-and-so or without so-and-so. Of just that aspect of that even the most successful people have people who have rooted them along and who have helped them along and mentored them along.
Yeah. John Maxwell says you can be really good by yourself, but you can only be great with the help of others. Like, you can't do it. And then, like he says, trying to succeed without the support of others is like standing on a gold mine digging away with a teaspoon. You know, it's true. It's totally true. So one of the activities was writing down your negative reflection, like the things that you think when you see. And then along with that, he calls it, you know, evicting that negative reflection and writing your authentic self. Because you know, I feel like we all know, some people may have to work harder at it. Like our natural head trash, it pops up, it comes forward, it pops out. But when we truly sit and think about it, like in a quiet spot and pray or meditate or whatever it is that you do, we know like we're good people that would do anything for anybody. And we may screw up, but there's so much. We have so much to give. But you can also get help from other people. So he gives a list of
Activity is the goal.
What'd you say? Are you talking to us, Janelle?
Yeah, I just said I love the part where he says the negativity is a bully. I love it. Like that voice is the bully, and that the affirmations of our authentic self are that still small voice that essentially whispers and says, "This is who you really are," not the bully voice.
Yeah, I loved that too, because the bully is loud and pushes you around, and it kind of overpowers the goodness. So he talks about the exercise, get out of the darkness, where you kind of write out who you could share your list with, when you're going to share it with them, you know, how it's going to help you gain perspective, and where did it come from. So kind of working through those things. But then he talks about the lamppost and the signs. This was really, you know, what were the top 5 negative signs placed upon me? And then what is the reverse of those signs? So I think like Jerry, you can use those too, like going through your affirmations that you wrote, recognize if you have other negative words that have negative connotations and write them down, like Deanna said, and then reverse them. Put them in there, but reverse them. And again, who are you going to share this information with? Because you need to be accountable to somebody, right? You just do better if you're accountable to somebody. He goes over the 7 support questions about, you know, you've read it, you've listened to it. Homework assignment that I think we all need to do is the interview your loving mirrors and safe havens. Like just sending this, you know, sending this to your closest friends, you know, whatever, 1 or 2 of your closest friends or siblings or whoever, and maybe your spouse, but have them really, you know, and they're crazy questions. I would never think to ask somebody like, what do you get out of me being in your life? Like, doesn't that sound kind of cocky? Like, that's not like, what do you gain? What are you gaining from me? You know, what have you gained from our relationship? What would be missing if I weren't in your life? You know, what do you see as my strengths? That's fair. Like, we've had that question come up in other things, right? Like having somebody tell you what your strengths are, you know, but I really love, like, what can I do differently to improve our relationship? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate our relationship? And what can I do to make it a 10? Talk about open yourself up to a can of worms. But then how great when he talks about, Jack Canfield says he and his wife do questions 7 and 8 once a week. Like, what if you had that open of communication so that before something with somebody that's important to you, like leads to a big blow up, or you're holding it in, or you're harboring, if you had a habit of like every Sunday say, okay, we're doing these questions. How did I do this week? What can I do better next week? Like at first it'll be a little awkward, right? But what if that just becomes part of your relationship building? once a week?
Because it gets to a point where you don't feel threatened. It's not a threatening thing. It is not a pointing fingers thing. This has been something that I've been married for 25 years, and it is a process. It's a continue, and that's what I'm learning. And you'll talk to anybody who's been married for a really long time, that's what it is, and that good marriages are ones that are that the communication is there, and that you actually talk to each other and say things like, these questions. What can I do to improve? Or even being able to we think that our thoughts have been transferred to the other person. They're not. They're just making up what they think you think, and it goes back and forth. And so having these kind of interview questions are huge, because it takes away the what ifs. It takes away the speculation.
And if it becomes like an open forum, like where it's not, they can open on and answer honestly without being attacked. But then what if you did this with some of your runners on your team?
Yeah. Yep.
So that they can help you be a better leader. What am I doing good for you? Because you want to be able to duplicate that for the others, right? But what am I not doing great for you? What can I do better? How can I help you? Could be scary, but I think it could be really great for team building and leadership, and something really, I don't know. There's some people I'd maybe be scared to send that to, but other people, but that's the thing, right? Like, you can't just send it to the people that think you're super awesome. What are you going to gain from that? Like, what, Dan, are you going to give me like a 9 or an 8 on a bad week? But
no, but this is not a bad thing to have continue, like you said, even with the relationship, people that they're there and they support you, because those observations, that's a super safe place to start.
And they see things.
Mm-hmm.
For example, this is just being open, honest. Surely nobody's going to share this with the rest of the world, but as we know, I was on 13 medications. I'm still on 2, and doctors have decided to kind of start weaning me off the 2. So we've started with 1, and so what we've started with is the antidepressant. And when they first started it, there was still a lot of, the kids were, I don't even remember what all it was, but the people I told were Deanna, Jenny, and my husband. And Rob's so busy, he never noticed, but Deanna and Jenny truly noticed a difference and said, you maybe need to scale back up again. Right now may not be a good time to lower your medication. I'm just noticing it just doesn't seem quite right. Maybe don't be in a rush. So I scaled it back up to normal dosage, and now been scaling it back down. And you know what? Nobody has said anything. So but the people closest to you, they should have, if you give them permission, and I did. I called them. I said, this is what we're doing. You have permission to tell me I don't look okay. Because I'm giving you that permission. So have people in your life that you give permission to be your safe haven of telling you things. So let's see. The number one
thing.
Do you
mind if I just say something really quick?
Please do.
I would say one of my most favorite supervisors ever, and it's been 15 years now that he was my supervisor, and we still keep in contact. He would send me an email about every 4 months, and he would just say, could you give me some things? He had a questionnaire, and it was a questionnaire of what he could do better as far as a leader. And to this day, whenever I talk to him, he's reading some book about development, but I gained so much respect for him, and I learned so much from him because of the fact that he was willing to take, me, the little, peon's feedback, is how I felt about it, but he was willing to apply it without any tension or without, he just very open, just, hey, give me this information, I need it.
Yeah, it says, the number one thing human beings are silently aching for is simply to be heard and not to be made wrong. Why are we not doing this like with our teams? Like, if we want our teams to duplicate what we're doing, to trust us, to follow us, like, we should be here and open to like what they think we're doing good. What can we do better? but especially the people that are closest to you. I think it's different because like Janelle's coming from like a work perspective. I obviously haven't worked in an office in how many ever 9 years, you know. Deanna owned her. So all of our perspectives are so different. So when I read this, I read it all from like personal or network marketing. And really until we just were talking about it right now, was when I thought about like, we should do this. Like we should be, you know, not that we're the boss of anybody, but there are a lot of people that depend on us to help them succeed, I think. A lot of people will succeed with or without us, but if we can save them some of the headaches and missteps and issues by not repeating mistakes that we've made, then we're just speeding it up for them, which is pretty awesome. So he gave examples of affirmations for step 2. Why do I have so many loving mirrors in my life? Why do I have so many safe havens in my business? You guys can read all of those. So I think the main thing this week is to send those questions, I'm going to say to at least 3 people, and ask them to fill it out. Do the exercises. Jerry, you missed it, but they're on Goal Digger, so you can write them out. And then chapter 6. Janelle, have you read chapter 6 yet? I know you're loving this book, so you may have read 6 already. The Systems of Support.
Yeah.
Is it so good? You weren't on here yet, but I was telling them, like, that chapter knocked my socks off.
Yeah.
So here's my suggestion. Don't wait until Wednesday night or Thursday morning next week to read chapter 6. Spend some time on it each night this week answering the questions, because there's a lot. This chapter is full of answering questions. Like I said, I filled out I have 4 full sheets of answering questions from this one chapter. But if you do that, then I think it helps our discussion a lot because we have so much. It's good. Any questions, any thoughts about affirmations or just things you learned or loved, or how you'll apply it with what we learned so far?
Hey, I missed that part of your guys' conversation, and that's the part I was like, oh, I really want to talk about this. Can you guys fill me in on just what you talked about with the affirmations?
Yes,
I don't want to keep you guys on the phone.
No, let me stop recording, and then we'll go over it with you. How about that? Let me stop the recording.